Do you still remember the Tanner family and that furry creature from the planet Melmac? It has been more than 3 decades since ALF took television by storm, and the cast from back then has changed in ways that are hard to believe. Some passed away in solitude, some were drained by illness, and others chose to live in seclusion. What you're about to see will surely surprise you. Max Wright as Willie Tanner. Max Wright was born on August 2, 1943, in Detroit, Michigan. He played Willie Tanner, the stressed-out father constantly worried about hiding the alien in his house, in ALF in 1986, when he was 43 years old. But behind the laughter on screen, he carried a gloomy state of mind. The role that once made him famous also trapped his career, making Wright feel stuck in the image of a hapless dad alongside the ALF puppet. Tragedies followed one after another. Wright once admitted that he hated working with the puppet, even to the point of lashing out at it on set. That suffocating feeling dragged him into years of drinking and drug abuse. In the early 2000s, he was repeatedly arrested for drug possession, and tabloids even published photos of him smoking crystal meth inside his own home. Those images shattered his reputation and pushed him into a life of loneliness, cut off from Hollywood. If his career had been stalled, his personal life was also overshadowed by darkness. He married Linda Wiberando in 1965 and had 2 children, but their marriage collapsed as Wright's addiction worsened. Even more painful, Linda passed away from breast cancer in 2017, leaving him alone to face illness. Wright had been diagnosed with lymphoma in the 1990s, and although it went into remission for a time, the disease returned aggressively toward the end of his life, leaving him weakened. On June 26, 2019, at the Lillian Booth Actors Home in Englewood, New Jersey, Max Wright drew his last breath at the age of 75. His funeral was held quietly, attended only by close family. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $1.5 million, mostly from ALF and later supporting roles, though it had been greatly reduced by addiction. Wright's passing closed the book on a life torn between fame, bitterness, and wounds that never truly healed. Schedeen as Kate Tanner. Schedeen was born on January 8, 1949, in Portland, Oregon. At age 37, she played Kate Tanner, the strict yet loving mother who always protected her family, in ALF in 1986. But like her co-stars, she once called the set of ALF a technical nightmare, where a single episode could take up to 25 hours to film and the atmosphere was often tense. Though she never fell into addiction or scandal, Schedeen still carried emotional exhaustion. She admitted that the cast was like a dysfunctional family, and ALF left her typecast in one kind of role, limiting her chances to shine in other projects. That regret lingered throughout her career, sometimes leaving Schedeen feeling lost in the Hollywood world. After stepping away from the spotlight, Schedeen chose a peaceful life with her family. She married Christopher Barrett in 1982 and had a daughter, Taylor, born in 1989. Free from the pressures of the set, she devoted much of her time to charity work, especially with the organization Holiday Heroes, where she became an ambassador in 2015, helping children and struggling families in Bulgaria. In 2025, Schedeen turned 76. She still lives quietly, occasionally appearing at community events, and her net worth is estimated at about $1 million, partly from acting income and partly from behind-the-scenes work and charity. Unlike many of her colleagues' tragedies, Anne has managed to keep a stable life, though the memory of ALF remains a mark both sweet and bitter in her career. Benji Gregory as Brian Tanner. Benji Gregory was born in Los Angeles, California, on May 26, 1978. In ALF in 1986, he was only 8 years old when he played Brian Tanner, the innocent and affectionate son of the Tanner family. This character not only brought charming naivety to the show, but also helped young audiences connect with the series. Thanks to this role, Benji became one of the familiar child faces on American television in the late 1980s and was nominated several times for the Young Artist Awards. However, when the spotlight faded early, Benji faced a large void. After ALF, he could no longer find meaningful roles, which led him to leave Hollywood and join the U.S. Navy. But because of depression, insomnia, and PTSD, he was soon discharged, leaving him with a sense of failure in both career paths. This blow made Benji withdraw more and more, and tragedy deepened when his sister passed away from a rare illness in 1998. Unlike many of his co-stars, Benji never married. That prolonged loneliness left him even more vulnerable. He turned to alcohol to soothe the pain, but the result was severe liver damage. Instead of finding comfort in love or family, he was left only with darkness and illness as companions, and ultimately, his health collapsed beyond saving. On June 13, 2024, Benji Gregory was found dead in his car in Arizona at only 46 years old. The cause of death was heat stroke during the brutal summer, compounded by cirrhosis of the liver, made even more heartbreaking as his beloved dog died right beside him. His net worth was only about $300,000, mostly from ALF and a few other child roles, a figure far smaller than the fame he once had. Andrea Elson as Lynn Tanner. Andrea Elson was born in New York City on March 6, 1969. At just 17 years old, she played Lynn Tanner, the shy yet compassionate eldest daughter, in ALF in 1986. Lynn became the teenage symbol of the series, adding coming-of-age storylines and helping young viewers relate. Thanks to this role, Andrea quickly rose to fame, loved across America, and secured her place in the television culture of the 1980s. But at the same time, Andrea endured a silent tragedy. During Season 2, she developed the eating disorder bulimia due to the harsh beauty standards of Hollywood. As a result, she lived with an obsession over weight, trying to maintain her on-screen image while hiding a serious health struggle. Andrea herself admitted that the set atmosphere was so tense that if ALF had gone on any longer, everyone would have gone crazy. Fortunately, Andrea found support in her marriage to Scott Hopper, a production assistant on ALF. Yet the emotional scars from her teenage years never completely left, making her married life not always easy. She had to fight to balance being a wife and mother with her own insecurities, and this sometimes left bittersweet silences within her family happiness. By 2025, Andrea Elson is 56 years old. She lives quietly with her husband and daughter, occasionally attending fan events for ALF. Her net worth is estimated at about $800,000, mainly from ALF and a few later supporting roles. Though she stepped away from Hollywood, Andrea is still remembered as a teen idol of her time and as proof of the emotional scars that youthful fame can leave behind. Paul Fusco as ALF, voice and puppeteer. Paul Fusco was born on January 29, 1953, in New Haven, Connecticut, USA. He joined ALF in 1986 at the age of 33 as both the voice and puppeteer of ALF. He also co-created the series, and it was Fusco who breathed life into the alien from planet Melmac. Thanks to this creativity, ALF became a cultural phenomenon and elevated Fusco into one of the most distinctive television creators of the 1980s. However, this success also brought him no shortage of pain. Fusco was known for being extremely private and tightly controlling everything related to ALF, from refusing to admit it was a puppet to creating tension with co-stars, particularly Max Wright. That strict control turned the set into a heavy place, and Fusco once admitted that the series he had created became a monster beyond his control, leaving him drained both physically and mentally. On top of that, in 2010, a blooper reel leaked showing ALF, operated by Fusco, making racist and sexual jokes. This scandal badly damaged ALF's image and made Fusco the target of heavy criticism. Although he maintained a stable family life, the pressures of public backlash and memories of the prolonged stress on set always haunted him. By 2025, Paul Fusco is 72 years old. He lives quietly, occasionally reappearing in projects related to ALF, and continues to hold the rights to the franchise. Fusco's net worth is estimated at around $2 million, mainly from ownership of ALF and its related merchandise, proof of the lasting legacy of the furry alien from Melmac. Liz Sheridan as Raquel Ochmonek. Liz Sheridan was born on April 10, 1929, in Manhattan, New York City, New York, USA. She played Raquel Ochmonek, the nosy yet humorous neighbor, in ALF in 1986, when she was 57 years old. The character Raquel not only brought laughs, but also enriched the Tanner family's neighborhood dynamic, making this supporting role a memorable part of the series. But off-screen, Liz carried a pain she never fully healed from. In her youth, she dated James Dean and witnessed the tragedy of his death in a car accident in 1955. That loss left a deep emotional wound that Liz admitted she never completely overcame. Later, when her partner Dale Wales passed away, she chose to live alone and never remarried, her personal life sinking into quiet solitude. In contrast to her wit on screen, Liz's later years were overshadowed by illness. She suffered from dementia, which gradually eroded her memory and clarity. Her career was also hindered by being typecast in supporting roles, leaving behind much regret. An already lonely life grew even darker as her health declined rapidly. On April 15, 2022, Liz Sheridan passed away at her home at the age of 93. She died in solitude, closing the chapter on a long journey of supporting roles that nonetheless left an unforgettable mark. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at about $1 million, largely from ALF, and especially from her role as Jerry Seinfeld's mother in the legendary sitcom Seinfeld. John LaMotta as Trevor Ochmonek. John LaMotta was born on January 8, 1939, in Brooklyn, New York, USA. He played Trevor Ochmonek, the nosy, sometimes rude neighbor who brought satirical humor to ALF in 1986, when he was 47 years old. The character Trevor added color to the neighborhood dynamic, providing viewers with an amusing contrast to the Tanner family. Although he never won awards, this role became a recognizable mark in his career. However, his career afterward was far from smooth. Being repeatedly cast in similar supporting roles left him typecast, limiting his chances to break out into bigger opportunities. This led to a sense of being forgotten by Hollywood, and his artistic life gradually quieted down, standing in stark contrast to the jovial image he portrayed on screen. Even more tragic, LaMotta's health declined rapidly in his later years. He suffered from chronic pneumonia, and the severe complications of this illness left him unable to recover. What once seemed like a simple disease ultimately became the cause of his death, leaving fans with deep sorrow. On January 29, 2014, John LaMotta passed away at the age of 75 from pneumonia complications. He died quietly, with none of Hollywood's spotlight left. At the time of his death, his net worth was only around $500,000, mostly from his earnings on ALF and a few other supporting roles. Jim J. Bullock as Neil Tanner. Jim J. Bullock was born on February 9, 1955 in Casper, Wyoming, USA. In ALF in 1989, he was just 34 years old when he played Neil Tanner, the brother of Willie Tanner. Neil brought goofy humor and became a well-liked supporting character. Thanks to this role, Jim proved his versatility in comedy acting, and although he never received major awards, he left a strong impression on the audience. Yet his life was marked by great pain. Jim came out as gay very early, which exposed him to discrimination and prejudice in Hollywood during the 1980s. Even heavier, in 1985, 4 years before appearing in ALF, he was diagnosed with H. This illness became a crushing burden, making him believe more than once that both his career and life would come to an end. At the same time, Jim fell into drug abuse, particularly cocaine, which damaged both his health and finances. He went bankrupt due to reckless spending and had to struggle to climb out of the darkness of addiction. Illness and stigma forced him into years of loneliness and suffering, but later he turned that pain into motivation, becoming an activist for the HIV/AIDS community. By 2025, Jim J. Bullock is 70 years old. He is still active in theater and television, while also passionately involved in social advocacy. His net worth is estimated at about $3 million, largely from his long television career and stage work, a testament to his extraordinary resilience in rising above the darkest years of his life. Meara as Dorothy Halligan. Meara was born on September 20th, 1929, in Brooklyn, New York, USA. At the age of 58, she appeared in ALF in 1987 as Dorothy Halligan, the mother of Kate Tanner. The character Dorothy added more depth to the family dynamic and brought witty exchanges to the series. Before that, Anne was already famous as one half of the comedy duo Stiller and Meara with her husband Jerry Stiller, and her appearance in ALF showed the enduring charm of a seasoned performer. However, her off-screen life was not always easy. Despite her marriage of more than 60 years to Jerry Stiller, Anne admitted that she struggled with severe depression throughout her life. The pressure of balancing a flourishing comedy career with her roles as wife and mother often left her exhausted. The stress of being part of a show business family, where both parents and her son Ben Stiller were well known, sometimes pushed her into states of insecurity and loneliness. In her later years, illness became her greatest struggle. Anne suffered multiple strokes, and her health declined dramatically, leaving her without the sharpness and energy she once had. Toward the end of her life, she lived in a weakened state, a stark contrast to the woman who had been so closely associated with laughter, now forced to fight through physical pain. On May 23, 2015, Meara passed away at the age of 85 due to complications from several strokes. She left behind a net worth of about $12.5 million, mostly from her career in comedy, television, and collaborative projects with Jerry Stiller. Bill Daly as Larry. Bill Daly was born on August 30, 1927, in Des Moines, Iowa, USA. He was 60 years old when he appeared in ALF in 1987 as Larry, a psychologist. Though a brief role, it added a touch of comedic depth to the series, while reminding audiences of him as a familiar television face following his major successes in I Dream of Jeannie and The Bob Newhart Show. But Bill's personal life carried deep sorrows. His first marriage to Patricia Anderson ended after more than 25 years, and he raised 2 children, including his daughter Kimberly, who passed away young, leaving a lasting emotional wound. Later, Bill married 2 more times, but in 2010, his third wife Becky died, taking away his most important source of support in his old age. This loss left him in prolonged loneliness. In addition, Bill Daly's health declined significantly in his later years. He gradually withdrew from Hollywood events and chose a quiet life in New Mexico. Diminished cognition and frail health created a painful contrast between the lively comedian audiences remembered and the elderly man who avoided the spotlight in silence. On September 4, 2018, just 4 days after his 91st birthday, Bill Daly passed away in Santa Fe of natural causes. His ashes were scattered near where he lived. At the time of his death, his net worth was about $4 million, largely from his legendary television career with I Dream of Jeannie, The Bob Newhart Show, and guest roles including ALF. Mihaly Meszaros as ALF, in Suit. Mihaly Meszaros was born in 1939 in Budapest, Hungary. He joined ALF in 1986 at the age of 47, taking on the role of wearing the full-body ALF costume. In particular, he performed the scenes where ALF needed to walk, run, or stand fully within the frame. Thanks to his small stature, only 83 centimeters tall, Meszaros brought a lifelike presence to the character, turning ALF into an unforgettable television icon, even though he was never recognized with awards. But his acting career was harshly limited by his height. Meszaros was frequently typecast into roles as dwarfs or eccentric side characters, making it nearly impossible to find major opportunities. After his circus and television career ended, he faced financial difficulties and the sting of Hollywood's neglect, a tragedy in sharp contrast to the affection audiences had for ALF. Health tragedies also struck him. In 2008, Meszaros suffered his first stroke but survived. However, in June 2016, he experienced another stroke at his home, fell into a coma for several days, and never woke up. His life, already filled with limitations, ended in illness and loneliness, leaving audiences with even more sorrow when remembering his comedic on-screen image. On June 13, 2016, Mihaly Meszaros passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 76. His ashes were first placed in the dearly departed museum alongside mementos of his career, and later, in April 2024, he was buried at Valhalla Memorial Park thanks to a community fund. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $500,000, mostly from ALF, commercials, and circus work from his early years. David Ogden Stiers as Flaky Pete. David Ogden Stiers was born on October 31, 1942, in Peoria, Illinois, USA. He appeared as Flaky Pete, a homeless man, in ALF in 1988 when he was 46 years old. Though just a guest role, his presence stood out because Stiers was already internationally famous for his portrayal of Charles Emerson Winchester III in MASH, a role that earned him 2 Emmy nominations and established his reputation as a first-class television actor. Yet behind his brilliant career, David lived with a hidden pain. He was gay but kept it secret for decades, fearing his career would be ruined, especially since much of his income came from voice acting for Disney and family-friendly shows. It was not until 2009, at the age of 67, that he finally came out publicly. But by then it was too late for him to find a lasting relationship, leaving him with deep loneliness. Tragedy continued when he was diagnosed with bladder cancer. In his final years, Stiers gradually withdrew from the world, refusing much of the help offered to him because of his pride. That same pride forced him to fight illness in silence, with no spouse or children by his side, only his home in Oregon as his refuge. On March 3, 2018, David Ogden Stiers passed away at his home in Newport, Oregon, at the age of 75. He left behind an estimated net worth of about $8 million, largely from his Disney voice work and film projects, while also donating a portion of his wealth to local arts organizations. Paul Dooley as Whizzer. Paul Dooley was born on February 22, 1928, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, USA. At the age of 59, he joined ALF in 1987 as Whizzer, the second husband of Dorothy Halligan. The character Whizzer brought humor and a sense of renewed warmth to the storyline, portraying a man who valued family. With a career already distinguished by independent films and television, this role simply reinforced Dooley's reputation as a versatile actor. Still, his personal life carried its share of pain. His first marriage to Donna Lee Wasser ended after many years, leaving behind an emotional scar he could not forget. The loss grew even heavier when she later passed away, forcing Dooley to live with loneliness through a long period of his life. Although he later found happiness again by marrying screenwriter Winnie Holtzman in 1984, old age brought new challenges. He once experienced a minor car accident, and as his health gradually declined with age, he had to cut back on artistic work. These setbacks were not devastating, but they carried a bittersweet reminder of a performer who had devoted his life to audiences. By 2025, Paul Dooley is 97 years old. He lives peacefully in Toluca Lake, Los Angeles, with his wife and daughter, appearing in public only occasionally. His net worth is estimated at about $3 million, mostly from a film and television career that has spanned decades. Marcia Wallace as Mrs. Lyman. Marcia Wallace was born on November 1, 1942, in Creston, Iowa, USA. At age 45, she appeared in ALF in 1987 as Mrs. Lyman, the schoolteacher who only appeared in one episode. Though just a small guest role, Wallace was already a familiar face to audiences thanks to her long television career, and especially for voicing Edna Krabappel in The Simpsons, a role that earned her an Emmy and became a cultural landmark. Yet her private life was marked by compounding sorrows. After marrying Dennis Hawley in 1986, her family happiness was cut short when he died of pancreatic cancer just 6 years later. That loss plunged Wallace into a period of deep depression, during which she had to raise her adopted son Michael as a single mother while struggling to regain her strength in solitude. On top of that, illness loomed as a constant shadow. Wallace was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1985 and underwent repeated treatments. Although she experienced periods of remission, the cancer returned. Massive medical bills and complications from the disease left her drained both physically and financially. By the end of her life, she was battling pneumonia and sepsis, the result of a body weakened after decades of fighting. On October 25, 2013, Marcia Wallace passed away at the age of 70. Her funeral was private and she was later cremated. At the time of her death, her net worth was only about $500,000, mostly from her voice work on The Simpsons. Though she died too soon, Wallace left behind an indelible legacy in the hearts of audiences and was honored by colleagues as a talented and resilient artist. Dean Cameron as Robert Sherwood. Dean Cameron was born on December 25, 1962, in Morrison, Illinois, USA. In ALF in 1989, he was only 27 years old when he played Robert Sherwood, the boyfriend of Lynn Tanner. The character added youthful romance and helped highlight Lynn's coming-of-age storylines. For Cameron, it was an opportunity to strengthen his familiar image on late 1980s television. However, his career was not without struggles. Cameron once shared that Hollywood was harsh, and he was often typecast into comedic roles, which limited his chances to branch out into more diverse leading parts. This brought him pressure and disappointment, forcing him to find balance between his artistic passion and the reality of making a living. Unlike many of his colleagues, Cameron did not face the tragedies of broken marriages or severe illness. He built a stable family life with his wife, Jessie Marion, the granddaughter of actress Elena Verdugo, and their son, Duncan. Even so, the obstacles in his acting career left him viewing Hollywood with skepticism, which led him to engage in political and social activism as another way of defining himself. By 2025, Dean Cameron is 63 years old. He lives in Los Angeles, still active in film and theater, but also dedicates much of his time to personal projects, from inventing the Bill of Rights Security Edition cards to independent art ventures. His net worth is estimated at about $1 million, largely from his acting career and creative pursuits beyond the screen. Are you surprised by the tragic lives behind the cast of ALF? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next stories.